What about the reliability of these models? I mean, it seems, almost like too good. Is there a risk there?
Yeah, too good to be true, right? So I was chatting with a friend of mine the other day. He's a PhD in AI at MIT, mega giga brain, if you will. Friend of mine from Stanford.
So about 50% of you then?
No, more like 500% of me, I should say. And he was talking about how one of the really great things about GPT-4, which is the most recent model, versus GPT-3, which is what ChatGPT runs on for most people, is how it only gives you an answer if it's confident. So one of the things that was a challenge with the previous model was it would be confidently wrong. It would tell you an incorrect fact, but it would be so confident about it that you would believe it, right? But now what the most recent model from OpenAI does is it'll just say, I don't know. It'll abstain from giving you the answer. That's a really important thing, because once that happens, then you can have a lot more confidence in these models that it's not just making up stuff. By the way, the making up stuff is actually useful, because things like generating poems or emails or whatever it is, that creativity portion of it, a lot of that depends on it making up stuff. But the really nice thing about OpenAI's recent model is it preserves that creativity, but it also abstains from giving you an answer unless it's very confident. So I'm just excited for what that means for the future, but I think these models are already getting so much more reliable.
Gotcha. And are there angles to leverage AI for, say, like if somebody wants to try and break into tech sales?
Yeah. I think as a broader question around what is how do you break into tech sales and what should you be doing if you're, out of college? I would say just immerse yourself in this, play around with ChatGPT, just follow your curiosity. And if you follow your curiosity, I can guarantee you that you will be in the top 10% if you're an SDR right out of college, right? If you can find a way to use AI to improve your prospecting, even if your company doesn't adopt it, you shouldn't rely on your company being forward thinking, right? If you can be that person who's adopting this off your own accord, you're going to turbocharge your productivity by so much that you'll be far ahead of your peers. So I just say, follow your curiosity, use it especially as an SDR, but also as an account executive, as a new account executive. Use it as, again, you can use Copilot, you can use other things, but use it as a way to improve your own development. One of the broader trends, I was talking to Corey Bray, he's a friend of mine. He does he runs this company called Coach CRM. He did sales training and coaching before. And one of the things we were discussing is how in this world of AI, the most important thing that matters even from a hiring perspective is your attitude. Because the tools to make you good are there. If you're a sales rep, even if you don't have sort of natural salesmanship, what you have is the ability for AI to help you get better at your job. So one of the things we're talking about is how sales leaders will probably end up optimizing more for just attitude in their hiring, because even if you're a rep with, you need to do work on your sales skills, if you have the right attitude, AI can help you get there without needing a lot of human intervention. So I think an openness to adopting AI for self-improvement, for self-coaching, all of that will take you so far as an account executive, as an SDR, someone new in tech sales.
Yeah, I guess I throw in their attitude, but also, as you said, but also I think kind of work ethics. I did I might be old school post this week on there's an article in the Wall Street Journal that a lot of companies are now hiring older workers because the work ethic maybe that's not necessarily there with younger workers. So I'm sure it's a huge debate. I may have pissed off some people, but it's an interesting dynamic for sure.
That's an interesting question. I'm sure that got a lot of opinions on LinkedIn or whatever. I think there's no substitute for work ethic. There is none for success, and this is going to be true forever. You can use AI to make yourself more productive, but work ethic, there's no substitute for it.
Yeah. So not to put you on the spot, and you're kind of the A+ people that come out of Stanford are probably wired to kind of just go. But do you see the kind of work ethic lacking and wanted, from the, I'll call it the, maybe, 20 somethings or early 30 somethings, want to work from home, really not that accountable. You can't really kind of push on the work ethic side. Do you see that, and you can totally disagree?
Yeah. So I'll say two things. The people I interact with most often in my age group, in the 20s, are my employees, right? And whether because we hired them or because we're a startup, they have fantastic work ethics, all of them. So the day-to-day interaction I have is with people with incredible work ethics. And, I mean, we couldn't be a startup if everyone didn't have a great work ethic.
Totally.
But on the other hand, what I do hear from a lot of sales leaders I speak with, obviously without naming any names, but it's a universal comment I hear, is how much easier it is to do your job relative to when they were in selling. CROs talk about they had to open up the yellow pages and make calls one by one, right? And that's how you do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, right. And now you have outreach to automate your sales sequences. You can have, power dialers and blah, 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 blah. So there's so much of automation in there. And it's taken out a little bit of the sting of, activity that actually leads to a lot of results. It's not the only thing that matters.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of CROs have talked about how activity and work ethic has, they feel like it's much lower than when they were starting off. So I think, obviously this is an obvious comment. If you can combine the best of AI and automation with a fantastic work ethic, no one in the world can stop you. Literally no one.
And attitude. So what about then, does any of this play into any advice you'd give for anybody recently affected by layoff in tech sales?
Yeah, I know it's a hard time for a lot of people in sales and tech, in the technology world in general. I think it's also an opportunity, though, like with everything in life, right? It's an opportunity to figure out, play around for yourself in terms of how can I upskill myself. It doesn't have to be AI related things. It could be, obviously, we think that's a big part of the future, but it could also be branching out into a few different other parts of the broader, being effective at your job. So for example, if you're a sales manager, right, that has been recently laid off, you could figure out how you future for hiring. But if you're in a process augmented by technology, that will be really compelling for a future potential hire. The other thing you could do is think about things like how, if you want to progress up the ladder from sales manager to VP to SVP to CRO, what matters what's going to matter in the future for those roles? A big part of that is going to be the RevOps and the analytics portion of it, right? Yep. Every CRO will tell you that RevOps is increasingly important as a part of their job. And so as a sales manager, if you become really good at not just, being respected by your team and being able to coach them and use AI for that, but also really good at the RevOps components, right? Having a perspective on the overall go-to-market of the company, having a perspective on what that translates to in terms of whether that's territory assignments or account mapping and all of that, and being able to map out some of that. Now you come into a new organization and your value is not just, hey, I'm another manager out there that's looking for work. It's, I have this perspective on here's what effective sales management in the future is going to look like with a process, with AI, et cetera. Here's how I'm going to implement it here's what my 90-day plan is going to be. We're going to have, this hiring process, et cetera. But I also bring in this lens of this holistic picture of looking at what the go-to-market looks like, being able to implement that through dashboards or RevOps tools, et cetera.
Awesome. So then talking about, we had kind of sales ops, kind of RevOps. So the impact that AI has on that is just going to be crazy, right? Because you think about these, thousands or tens of thousands of the tech stack that's out there. Jesse sent me the latest, that came out yesterday of that, picture. I mean, you just can't see anything, right? So, AI now morphing that, it's going to be crazy.
It's going to be incredible. I'm really excited for the future of how data-driven sales is going to be while still retaining that human component. And we talked a little bit about this, the kinds of data you can get from things like, even from Copilot, if you can get insights like, what is the most common risk? What is the biggest risk, right? And you get that for every deal automatically, for example. Now, if you run a RevOps analysis on it, now you have things like, well, what are the most common risks in our deals? What are the most common reasons we lose customers? What are the most common churn risks or churn reasons? What are the most common reasons for CFOs to buy? What are the most common product feature requests? There is a whole host of things when you can draw out these insights from sales calls and then layer on analytics on top of that. That becomes crucial for everyone in the company. And today, how does it happen? You get a sense from the street, right? You go and talk to the rep and say, hey, what's happening? You go and talk to the manager and say, hey, in your territory, why are people not buying, or why are people churning, right? And then you like form a sort of rough picture of what's happening. But the whole point of RevOps is to bring data and clarity to that, right? And so if you can have some of these insights, and to paint a picture of what that looks like today versus the future. Today, RevOps is very much about whatever data you can get from the CRM, right? Which is flawed because often reps are putting it in or whatever it is. You have like some data that is objective, some data that is up to interpretation. But now if you can complement that with objective data from your deals, like as I was talking about, the kinds of insights that can be company defining, it's a whole different world. And so I'm very excited about how using that data from deals and conversations to drive more insights and analytics for RevOps, that's going to be, I think, a big part of the future of RevOps.
Oh, that's awesome. So you mentioned Gong a lot. Any other sales tools that you like?
Obviously, for our company size, there are only some things that make sense. Again, we hold no water for any of these companies, but I will say that personally, I'm a huge fan of Apollo.io. What they do is not anything revolutionary, I think, but they basically combine the data capabilities of a ZoomInfo or companies like that, or data, B2B data, contact data, etc., with the sequencing capabilities of an Outreach or a SalesLoft. And so it's really nice when you have that pipeline all together. I think in the last year or so, their data quality has become really good. I think they were more suited for SMBs in the past, and they've gotten good at, as far as we can tell, at enterprise B2B contact data too. So it's also very cost effective compared to some of these other players. So Apollo.io is one of our favorite solutions. So.
Awesome. And of course, we have our sponsor, Decision Link, in the value selling space. I'm sure they're going to be leveraging AI more and more to help kind of with those value selling propositions, so people can sell more and get more money to the table. Because in this day and age, where costs are being cut all over the place, the ROIs that CFOs are looking for really have to be a lot shorter. And I'm getting a little bit of echo. Are you?
Not at the moment.
Okay. All right.
Cool.
Just be in mind. So anyway, what about predictions for the tech stack relative to AI or anything else?
Yeah. I wish I had a crystal ball, but I have some thoughts. And obviously, you can take it with a massive bucket of salt. I'm sure everyone will. One trend that we're seeing already, even pre some of the AI boom that we're seeing, is around the consolidation of the tech stack, right? And that stems from just people buying too many different things and hard to incorporate that into their sales process. But it also stems from tighter budgets because of some of the challenges that tech sales is facing across the board. So I think that trend is going to continue, right? The consolidation of tech stack, sales tech stack across the board. I think every solution that survives and becomes a part of the future of the sales tech stack will have an AI component. And I think it's important to talk about how no one's buying AI because it's AI, right? People are buying AI. People buy AI because for the same reasons people buy anything, which is it solves a problem that is urgent and that needs solving. That's always been why people buy. So I think companies that are able to, whether they're incumbents or startups, that are able to deeply understand their customer problems and what AI can solve for those and how that helps, and then effectively market it, of course. I think that's going to be a big part of it. But I suspect every company in the next 3 years will have AI being a crucial component of a broader pipeline of how they solve their customers' problems. I think those are probably the two most the two biggest things I see. And then the third thing, this is a bit of a controversial opinion, right? I don't know what's going to happen to prospecting. So I'll tell you what this is based on. I've talked to a couple of CROs, many CROs actually, and they've talked about how the ROI on BDRs has been reducing over time. And this stems from, in 2014, 15, when outreach and other things like that came out, it was the best thing since sliced bread, because now you could have these automated sequences and really touch a large base of prospects. But people have wised up to that now. Like the open rates and the response rates in the last couple of years for cold emails has dropped off a cliff. And it also ties in with how, I think it ties in this broader point of how people want to they want to have agency in making their own decisions, right? People don't want to be sold to. They want to feel like they're the ones making the decision. They're the ones buying. This is reflected across the board in other consumer decisions too. And so the nature of a cold email means that you just want to ignore it. It doesn't matter if it solves a problem. In so many more cases now, you just want to ignore it. And that's being reflected in sales leaders saying, my BDRs are not even paying for their laptops. That's how bad the efficiency is on BDRs. So I don't know what's going to happen to prospecting. There's like so much innovation on automated email writing, on automated phone calling, etc. But my controversial take is none of that's going to be effective because there's too much of it and people are overwhelmed. So a lot of that focus is going to shift to marketing. Is going to shift to how do you get people to feel like they're making their own decision. You draw them in through podcasts like this, through LinkedIn posts, through engagement, through whatever, through your traditional social media channels, and you draw your prospects in that way. And so I think I could see a very real possibility that prospecting and the genre of B2B contact data and sequencing, all of that becomes a lot less valuable because people are just not responding to it that much anymore.
Gotcha. And then what would be your perspective on cold calling with phones for prospecting?
Yeah. Again, this is going to be very industry dependent, right? If you're like an enterprise seller with 100 target accounts and you build the cold call is the start of a broader relationship with that's still going to work. But if you're an SMB seller with 10,000 prospect accounts in your target market and each of them are interchangeable, I think the cold call is just going to become. Here's the other thing that's going to happen: millennials don't pick up the phone from random people. This is a consistent trend that lots of consumer surveys show. And so as you get more and more buyers becoming millennials, even sort of the next generation, what's after that, Gen Z or whatever it is, as more and more buyers and prospects enter that generation, you're going to have less and less willingness to respond to a cold call, I think. I think it depends on if it's SMB versus enterprise, but I also suspect the cold call effectiveness is gonna drop a lot.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, I answer my phone. I had a company, Phone Ready Leads, that actually helps with phone prospecting.
Right.
They're calling me to try and sell to me. So then I picked it up, heard their pitch, and obviously I got a soft spot for sales folks. And I said, well, I'm not really interested, but I think I could help you. So I was actually able to turn it around. So that was
that's fantastic.
Jesse, who's a huge fan of lead gen in all shapes and sizes, totally agrees, says you're spot on. And I'm not sure this question means, he says, should companies bail their sales team out of Google and Microsoft spam jail?
Okay, I'm guessing it's the email spam filters. I don't know how we do that. Jesse, what do you mean by bailing them out? Companies, how would companies be able to do that? If there's a way, that would be amazing, I think.
Yeah, man, I still go through, and I probably once or twice a week go through my junk, and there's always something there. I'm like, this is like crazy. How many things get missed because of that?
Yeah.
So, and Jesse says Ryan is the man who's at Phone Ready Leads. So, all right. So time flies when you're having fun. What about here as we wrap up? Maybe any mentors that you've had and advice that you've received along the way?
Yeah, so many to count. Too many to mention in the short span of time. I think starting from
you can mention maybe an advice that you received.
I'm just going to go back to there's no substitute for hard work, and how, regardless of where you are, the work ethic is important. Obviously, activity is not everything, but the really hard thing about any job really is to combine knowing whether you're working smart with putting in the hours. And so one thing that's been very influential for me is thinking about how to optimize my day so that I'm both putting in the hours, but also making sure those hours are valuable.
Right.
And the nature of what is valuable can change. But I think that's, regardless of what you do, what work you're in, if you can constantly, on a periodic basis, make sure you're evaluating that you're spending your time on the right things, and using the right technology to make you more productive, but also making sure you're putting in the hours, it will pay off so much in the future if you're able to do that. Particularly when you're my age and you're in your 20s, you have less responsibility. That's the time to put in the work, and then you'll see the rewards years from now. So.
There you go. Awesome. Well, you've been a great guest, Rohan. Appreciate it. Certainly, AI in sales is something that's going to evolve. Every week, every month, every week, every month, every quarter, and be insane to think what it's going to be like a year from now.
Absolutely. And anyone listening to this podcast, obviously check us out at copilotup.com. So copilotup.com. Happy to chat. Even if you don't have to buy from us. If you just want to chat about what does AI mean for your tech stack, we're very happy to just have a quick conversation with you and give you some thoughts and advice on what we think the future is going to be and how it might be relevant for your company, the problems you want to solve.
Awesome. Well, you've been great. Tucker, thanks for posting it. So you said copilotup.com, correct?
Yep, that's perfect. Yep.
All right. And Tucker, thanks for your help behind the scenes. Rohan, you've been great. Next week, we have Pat O'Dell, who's CEO at CPP Associates. It's a super successful regional solution provider. And his title topic is going to be applying the 7 habits of successful people to tech sales. So
Stephen Covey.
There you go.
Love it.
You're a student of the game. So, all right, everybody, thanks. Have a great one. Thanks, Rohan.